I'm Rachel Abioye, and you're watching JIBRIN Angle only on Oweleketv. Today we're going to talk about some important issues in Nigeria. Nigeria's leadership has been causing a lot of problems, mainly because it was set up in a flawed way. You know, when a building has a weak foundation, it doesn't matter how nice or how beautiful it looks, it's going to fall apart sooner or later. Nigeria was founded by people who cared more about their tribes and regions than the whole country, and that's been bad for the nation. The seed of sentiment that was planted decades ago by our founding fathers has grown so big to a tree of countless branches of woes. How bad? We'll be discussing the possibility of the military getting involved in our country. We'll also look into Atiku Abubakar what he recently said, and we'll briefly touch on the FBI releasing some records about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As usual, we have our esteemed guest, Barrister Austin Manta. As you may know, he's a legal practitioner who has been in the field for over 38 years. Please join us.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleketv. Today, as usual, we shall be having our regular guest, Barrister A.A. Manta, to discuss about some important situation in Nigeria. We shall be talking about the possible military intervention. We shall be talking about the most recent submission made by Atiku Abubakar. And we shall also briefly be talking about the FBI release of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's record, whatever record it is. Once again, my name is JIBRIN, and this is JIBRIN Angle. We are coming to you on this show on Oweleketv. This is a program that talks about the important issues of the day that borders the gospel, politics, legal issues, legal matters, generally current affairs. And as I said earlier, we have as our regular guest, Barrister A.A. Manta, to give us an in-depth analysis of the topics that we have for today. Thank you once again, viewers, for joining us as we'll set to roll with Barrister Manta on the first inquiry or question, which has to do with his his basic area of expertise as a lawyer. Once again, Barrister A.A. Manta, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, he is a legal practitioner of vast experience that spans over 3 decades, about 38 or about heading to 39 years now. And he is very, very knowledgeable in the legal system, especially Nigerian legal jurisprudence. And he will be answering all our legal questions today, including our political questions as well, because he is not just vast in the political terrain, in the legal terrain. He is also, I may be tempted to say, as equally vast in current affairs, especially as regards to politics, both locally and globally. So we couldn't have had any better analyst or commentator in these two regards. So once again, we welcome you all as we urge you to sit tight and enjoy the show today. Barrister Manta, can you please, do you have an update on the FBI issue, the release we all are anticipating against Bola Tinubu? I think for this record.
Thank you, JIBRIN and viewers. Good to be here once again. You will recall that we have talked about this issue of FBI releasing its records
Yes.
on Tinubu in the month of October. Now we are in the last week of October, and there is great anticipation for the release of the documents. Unfortunately, Tinubu is at it again. He has retained some lawyers in the US to stop the US agencies. Incidentally, it's not just the FBI that were supposed to release. It's all US security agencies, the CIA, Internal Revenue Service, and others. They were supposed to turn over the documents they have in respect of Tinubu. Now, this was not an application by Atiku Abubakar stricto censor. It is basically by a partner of the journalist Hyundai that you know, and the partner is the US lawyer by the name of Aaron Greenspan, who requested under a Freedom
of Information Act
for the release of these documents from the US agencies. The FBI scheduled to release these documents monthly at the rate of 500 pages per month, starting with the month of October. Unfortunately, Tinubu has gone to the US court to try to stop the release of these documents or this data that the US agencies have on him. As we speak, I'm aware that who anchored the Freedom of Information request has filed a motion in the US for the urgent release of those documents. And one of the things he said then or there is that it seems that there's pressure on the Nigerian Supreme Court to hear and deliver judgment in the cases, in the election cases against Tinubu. So he is urging the court to quickly release those documents and not to buy in to the request for the non-release that Tinubu has asked for. That is as at yesterday. Yes.
Well, like I told you earlier, and my viewers as well, the US of today that we all know will fight that. Honestly, it is not just the it is not just Bola Tinubu's legal team that are fighting this. I bet you the US lawyers will be fighting that because Bola Tinubu is, in my opinion, which is he has so many things to that one can use, our enemies can use to blackmail him. It's obviously being blackmailed by the powers that be, global powers that be, which and US obviously is the leader of this global powers that be that are blackmailing Nigerian president, unfortunately, because he has a whole lot of baggages, in fact, dirty baggages left, right, and center that we can't even get full hold of them all. So Bola Tinubu is obviously doing their bidding. He's a stooge to the Western world. Therefore, FBI honestly will not want to release something that could be politically injurious to him. So I hope my problem is the court may eventually, obviously the court, because they don't have option. We've had cases like that where, although it was dragged through the court process, but eventually FBI was compelled by the court to release those documents. However, those documents were released with maximum redactments. So that is what, again, I expect in this case, because they wouldn't want to release anything that would jeopardize Tinubu's political career or presidency. It's sort of, so what I suspect is, well, not even suspect, that's their modus operandi, especially this current FBI of Joe Biden. So that definitely they will fight it, but eventually when they will try to buy time, drag it on through the court process. That's what they usually do, try to frustrate the clients that are filed for such bill, such release. So therefore, what they will do is stretch out the process, and eventually they will release it, but release it with very minimal information, redacting key areas where would be injurious, inimical to political Bola Tinubu's presidency or political career. So that is just it. Anyway, I will move away from that. I don't want to dwell too much on that, because that is not, we will have a major issue to discuss on, which has to do with the fertile ground the Nigeria is sitting on right now, fertile ground for military intervention. We'll come back to that. However, Barrister, can you still give us an update also on Atiku's submission? Excuse me. I read that the Supreme Court set up a panel of judges of justices to handle the hearing of Atiku and Obi's submission.
Yes, that is very correct. The process of hearing and determining the appeal by Peter Obi, by Atiku Abubakar, and every other appeal at the Supreme Court usually begins by setting up a panel that we hear the appeals. In this case, the Supreme Court has set up a 7-member panel of Supreme Court justices that will hear these appeals. And they will commence sitting on Monday, this coming Monday. I believe with preliminary issues will be dealt with. So as they sit and begin to hear applications, you know, there are applications pending for additional evidence to be brought in respect of the Chicago sworn statement of the registrar of the Chicago State University as a fresh evidence. Those preliminary issues have to be dealt with before the Supreme Court will go into the substantive appeal. So as they start sitting on Monday, we will see as the proceedings go. But those are the first issues they will deal with. Any motions that are pending, any preliminary issues that are pending will be dealt with as they start sitting from next week. Yes.
So do you have an idea of, legally, do you have an idea of what the duration is there? Are they going to, is the Chief Justice giving them setting a timeline for this hearing?
No, the timelines are not set by the Chief Judge, but they are set by the Constitution and Electoral Act. The Supreme Court has a period of 60 days within which to dispose of this appeal. So we are talking of a pretty short time between this month and probably early December. Everything pertaining to this election as pertains to the presidential election would have been dealt with and determined finally by the Supreme Court.
So by virtue of accepting this evidence, or to hear the submissions from the Atiku's legal team over the new over the document forgery issue, is that an implication that the Supreme Court will eventually concur to the submission to the new evidence to add to what they already have on the ground?
I discussed on this platform before that we have provisions in the Supreme Court rules for admission of additional or fresh evidence on appeal in the normal cases. But I also drew a distinction that when it comes to election cases, which are termed as sui generis, they are not regarded as normal, in the sense that most of the rules of court that deal with normal cases will not apply to election matters. And I have said that this will be the first time in our history that the Supreme Court will be called upon to admit fresh evidence in an electoral matter. I wouldn't like to speculate. I have my opinion, but I would like to wait and see how the Supreme Court will go about it. From what has been happening before in electoral cases, they treat the matters very, very technically. Technical issues almost always dominate election petitions and election matters in Nigeria. So I would like to come at this problem from that angle, that there are a lot of technical issues in election matters in Nigeria, and they always are at the forefront of considering election matters. Whether our Supreme Court will lay a precedent of accepting fresh evidence in this instance, like I said, this is the first time an issue like this will be brought before the Supreme Court. So whether the Supreme Court will accept the fresh evidence and lay a precedent for other courts, the Court of Appeal and election tribunals, to follow in subsequent proceedings remains to be seen. Yes.
Anyway, to close on this topic, honestly, my take is I am not expecting anything positive from the Supreme Court. The truth is, over the years, we have, especially, and discussing it with you on this platform and other platforms as well, we've had cases, we have situations, it's been a process of the Supreme Court's waning integrity. It's been waning from Obasanjo regime up to date. It has never gotten better. It's always from one ridiculous judgment to another more ridiculous judgment to another worse ridiculous judgment. It's been stepping down the ladder all this year. So I don't think, besides, it's the same set of human beings, though some Supreme Court judges, so many of them have retired, Wise and Belgore and so many other, and this Islamic guy who didn't know anything yet was appointed to Supreme Court judge. So I honestly, personally, someone like me, and I believe so many Nigerians think the same way as me. We're not expecting anything tangible from the Supreme Court. They are not going to go different from the appeal court, honestly. As far as I'm concerned, they've been bought over. And some of them who in my own opinion, who seem to they feel the pulse of the nation, they feel the need to do the needful, to do the right thing, has been in one way or the other either blackmailed or threatened by one of these corruption agencies, especially EFCC, probably to audit them, to investigate their finances or whatever. So look, when the government of the day, it comes against you, comes for you, be rest assured, it will be difficult for you to just slip off, for you to escape their hammer if they really, really beam their searchlight on you to dig out debts. It is difficult. So especially these judges that rose through the ranks, so many of them have some dirty background. So obviously, the government will use their apparatus, their security apparatus, to blackmail these judges, these justices of the Supreme Court. So they have all the weapons. The government has all they have all the weapons at their disposal. Several options. All the options are all at their disposal to use. So I don't expect anything different from the appeal courts to anything different from the appeal court to be given to Nigerians. So, and takes us to the next topic that has to do with military intervention. Barrister, the situation in Nigeria has never been this worse. Nigeria has never been better from the foundation. It's been from one bad situation to another bad situation to another. It's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And so far in the history of the nation called Nigeria, today, the current Nigeria is the worst of the Nigeria we've had in the past, the worst of it. We say the military regime are bad. Some people will say the worst democracy is better than the best military regime. That I have never used that phrase. I've never believed in that phrase, including growing up even as a teenager, because I've been interested in the current affairs, especially political affairs. So growing up, even I remember those days during the excuse me, Buhari Diagbon regime. Then we're in Maiduguri, we're resident in Maiduguri there. I was so excited at what was done then. I remember those days, how the military would go to traders' shop and force them to sell things below their desire or whatever. So honestly, I was so excited. People were happy about that. I was happy about that. And that is just it. I have never, ever had this objection against the military. Honestly, there was never a time in my life I had that, and up to date, I still don't. In fact, it's getting even stronger and stronger, because I've always believed in this believe that democracy, this word democracy, is a child of the Western world. They introduced this to the world, and I have never believed in it. This is not what God intended for the world, as far as I'm concerned. This is not a system promulgated divinely by God. So this is just Western. And anything Western, any idea that comes from Western world, honestly, let me not just say any of them. There are so many technologies and so many good things. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to morality, human social issues, anything that comes from the Western world is, most cases, contrary or contradicts the way of God. So I've never believed in democracy. So, but people like us just accepted it as, okay, that is what Nigeria, that's where we found ourselves. And there's obviously someone like me, there was nothing I could do, nothing. Who am I after all? But judging by the current situation, Barrister, current circumstances in Nigeria, is the ground fertile for military intervention?
Well, let me start by saying that the misconception that democracy is an end in itself is what it is, a misconception. Democracy is not the end in itself, it's a means to an end. Democracy is supposed to be a means to good governance and development. But it has come to be taken as a means as an end in itself. Now, having said that, let me put the caveat that this democracy was forced down our throats. We have been told that if you have democracy, there will be good governance and there will be development. But people forget that this democratic system of government has been forced down on the Nigerian people and other African countries that have their cultural setting, that have their political settings. In Nigeria, I can only mention about highest three tribes or ethnic nationalities that had a political system that had even a small resemblance. Only a few tribes had a totally republican status that was akin to some form of democracy. Now, this democracy was brought, and we have said, okay, let us put it into practice. We tried it from independence. We tried it in the Second Republic, and tried it again in the Third Republic. This, to me, is the fourth attempt at democracy in Nigeria. Now, coming to the issue of between democracy and military governance, I have laid the foundation that a system of governance is not a means, it's not an end. It's supposed to be a means to good governance and development. So you can now ask yourself, between democracy, this democracy, and the military government, which one will deliver the good government? Which one will deliver the development that we need in Nigeria? Now, I can straight away tell you that I favor democracy in the strict sense. That is, if it is democracy in the strict sense. But I do not agree that what we practice in Nigeria today is democracy. What we are having now is a distorted and fraudulent form of democracy. Now, democratic governance is supposed to be by universal suffrage and is underpinned by checks and balances. Then you also have an enlightened electorate. If these factors are not there, the democracy will end up to be a sham. This is exactly the position of the democratic experience in Nigeria today. We do not have an enlightened electorate. We do not have the checks and balances that moderate the democratic system of government in Nigeria. On paper, we have a judiciary, we have a legislature, and the executive. That is on paper. But in reality, in Nigeria today, the legislature is virtually non-existent as an independent body that will act as a check or balance on the executive. And there is intervention in the judiciary. So what we have in Nigeria is a sort of civilian dictatorship in the strict sense that it should be. In Nigeria today, a governor is like an emperor. They have pocketed the houses of assembly. They do as they please. There's no check and balance on the governor in the state. As we speak, even the last ninth National Assembly itself was a rubber stamp assembly. And we are seeing even the present National Assembly is also a rubber stamp. So where you do not have proper checks on the executive, how can you call that democracy? Where the governors go about and behave like emperors, they wield the powers of dictators. How can you call that as a democracy that we need? Now, I would not mind if we are progressing on the path of democracy, considering that we have not had a long time to practice this. If we are going in the right direction, our democracy is improving. I will be hopeful that one day we can have a stable democratic system that will help our people express their views, express their votes, and hold their leaders accountable. But no, we are going in the opposite direction. Every government demonstrates even a more dictatorial tendency than the former one. So I do not have any hope in this democracy. And I do not want to call it a proper democracy, so-called. Now, coming to the military regime, you know, I always distinguish between a patriotic military government
absolutely,
and a corrupt one. So when you use the term that the worst of democracies is better than the best of democracies, I mean the best of military governments, I have to disagree with you. I do not agree with that term, because in the kind of democracy that we have, a patriotic military regime is far better than the fraudulent democracy that we purport to have. Even the patriotic ones, is the fact that most of them are not trained in the act of governance as such. And they rely on the civil servants. If you see a military government in place, most of the memos, most of their actions are initiated by civil servants. Even when the military administrator has particular policies that he wants, those policies are fine-tuned by the civil servants who serve them. Now, in Nigeria, one of the most corrupt entities is the civil service. So we are held between, it's almost like between a rock and the deep blue sea. Whether we talk about the civil government or the military, it is a very serious disability. If the military were to come now, some of those problems will still persist. Even if it's a patriotic one, those problems, those inhibiting factors, like the civil service, will curtail the effectiveness of such a patriotic military government.
Now,
as what has been happening in Nigeria.
Now, I think I disagree with you in that light. Now, like I said earlier, I've never been a believer of democracy because it is a Western stuff. Anything that comes from the West, okay, any social issues, social policy that comes from the West is always, it's always something that is contrary to God's will, God's word. And that is just it. If we go through the Bible from Genesis, you will understand through the entire Old Testament that even the Israelites asked to ask was, at least they went against Moses, God's will, by asking for them to be given a king. God wasn't happy about that, but that is just it. Anyway, I don't want to go deep into that. However, now there are reasons why I have always preferred the military regime, either military or whatever you call it, military or monarchy or autocratic or whatever, but rather I prefer to, because we can't, in this our present day, the only other stuff we have that can be applied to Nigeria is the military. So now, just like you said earlier, a patriotic, selfless, purposeful military leader. Let me be frank with you. Yes, our civil service is one of the most, if not the most corrupt in Nigerian institutions. The truth is, people generally are scared of the military. Nigerians, we are, just like you noted earlier, we are not just the environment is not enabling enough, not civilized enough for democracy. We don't, our politicians are just, they behave like the military as well. So they don't go by the rules, they don't obey the rules. They set rules that even they themselves, they keep flouting. So I basically think that a purposeful, patriotic, selfless military, just like what Idiagbon wanted to do or tried to do during the Buhari era. Someone like Idiagbon, let me even use him as a pointer in my opinion. Take someone like Idiagbon. Someone like Idiagbon becomes the president, the head of state of Nigeria. I bet you people will sit up, including look. I've always said something. When the head is right, I am telling you, the other side of the body takes shape. That is just like what Peter Obi. That's one thing I like about him, Peter Obi. His opinion, his understanding of how leadership works. When the leader does the right thing, lives a decent lifestyle, decent personal principles, and does the right thing in all rudiments, obviously the subordinates, people down, it trickles down. It trickles down. And that was exactly during the Yabo time, we all knew what happened. Everybody sat up. At that point, Nigeria was already corrupt. Deeply corrupt, may not have been corrupt as what it is today, but it was very corrupt at that point. But we saw what happened. People sat up during the Diabo era. People sat up. People tried to do the right thing. People started queuing, especially this issue when he instituted the war against indiscipline. My God, that thing worked. I remember I was in school there. I was a member of a member of war against indiscipline. Then I was a member. I remember when Babangida visited my school in Meduguri. Then I was the one first. Among the first people, because I was holding the flag. I was among the first people he shook when he came to inspect us. So I knew how much that war against indiscipline. I participated in it. I was a member of war against indiscipline in school. So the thing worked. If they had allowed the Diagbon regime to span to up to 8 years, just like what is his name, Babangida did, I'm telling you, Nigeria could have been much better. So now, getting a purposeful, patriotic, selfless leader, military leader, as someone like Idiagbon, honestly, people, yeah, I agree with you. The civil servant, of course, what do you expect? Even the president himself, is he the one that does it? Civil servants will always do. We have the technocrats, the bureaucrats, the professionals who does those things, whatever a leader is just for you to give instructions and give directives on what to do. A leader should have a brain. It is not even if the civil servants are corrupt. You have been a member, you have been a citizen, you were born and bred in Nigeria, you know the system, you grew through the ranks, you are part of the system. You may be a military leader, but you have been in the system, so you know what is obtainable. So when a civil servant brings you, you give an instruction, go get this thing, go get me this thing, or get this idea, I need to see, give me an idea of this, or give me an advice on what we should do. You should have, it's just like, that's one thing I love about Donald Trump, the former president of America. That's what he does. He's a very good listener. He will bring everybody, including people he disagrees with, on the table to discuss. He will listen to everybody carefully, listen to you, bring your own advice, suggestion, whatever. He takes everything, he goes with all this stuff, goes to his private space, and then end up making up the right decision. He will go through all the brilliant ones or whatever. He uses his common sense. It is just about, if you're a good leader, you should be able to decipher or sift the wheat from the chaff. That is the point. So my point is I'm coming from the angle of having a purposeful, patriotic, selfless military leader. If you have somebody like that, the person will know. We will know what if a civil servant brings in something that is crazy. The president will disregard that and tell him, You do this, do that. It's sort of get something else. I bring up ideas. From those ideas, you should be able to build. Somebody like what's his name? Obasanjo. Obasanjo is that kind of a person to who listens to people, bring great ideas, listens to people, whatever. In his own way, whatever. His democracy, whatever. There is one thing I like about him. I think he has those tendencies too. Unfortunately, he's not clean. He's not that kind of person who can be referred to as selfless, patriotic, and purposeful. That is the point. If not, someone like Obasanjo he was a very smart, intelligent man who can actually sift the wheat from the chaff. A leader, every good leader, if you as a leader can be able to sift the wheat from the chaff, you'll be able to lead, no matter who, even if you're in the midst of corrupt, rotting individuals. You can always do whatever. And when somebody does not perform, you kick him out. My problem with democracy is this. Let me tell you my problem with democracy. Just like you noted earlier, democracy, even if you have an angel as a president, what about the National Assembly? What about the judiciary? That's the point. So that has always been my problem with democracy growing up. Honestly, this is my problem with democracy, and that is why I see it as something that is against God, and that is why God never approved of it, even scripturally. So the truth is, democracy, you have a president, someone like Peter Obi, who has done so much in Anambra State and comes to become a president. What about the National Assembly? National Assembly is so corrupt. The judiciary is so corrupt. They will so frustrate him. They will sabotage him. It happened to the Obasanjo time. When Obasanjo came up the first term, the first 2 years of Obasanjo, we all saw what Obasanjo was doing. Obasanjo was very patriotic. He was out to do the right thing, to do the needful. Obasanjo was sincere. He was purposeful. He was straightforward. But what happened after 2 years? He got frustrated. He got sabotaged. When he brought in Bola Ige, I remember when he brought in Bola Ige as the power and steel minister, who was in charge of NEPA at that time, who vowed that he was going to take care of epileptic power situation in Nigeria. What happened? He was frustrated. NEPA became even worse. So that is the point. But under military regime, now you cannot sack people anyhow. You cannot do anything to National Assembly members. You can't do anything to them because they were already they were elected. They are as powerful, probably constitutionally, they have equal whatever contribution or equal stake. Equal stake in Nigeria, in the Nigerian system. So you can't do them anything. But as a military leader, the buck stops on your table. The decision, whatever you instruct, that settles it. So this is my problem with democracy, honestly, because we have more corrupt people. It has always been like that, even from time immemorial, where you have more corrupt people than the people who are sincere, who want to do the right thing. And today, it has become even worse. In the US, it is even getting worse and worse. US, you can't believe what is happening in the US right now. It is crazy. The so-called democracy in the US is being truncated. It's been bastardized. No more rules. They bend all rules. That's the point. They flag all rules. The entire Congress, okay, not entire, let me not be that reckless. Most of the Congress members are either corrupt or intending to be corrupt by selling influence to foreigners, especially China. Some of them, substantial number of them, are in China's pockets. They are in China's payroll. Can you imagine that? US citizens that were known to be the most patriotic citizens, patriotic people, who are patriotic people in the world. Today, it is no longer so. Their representatives are being sold out to the highest bidders. The same thing is happening. This is my problem with democracy, honestly. But military, you can't find something. If you have a good head, he will plant, because he is ruling by dictation. So he will plant all his likes, people that are like him. Just like take Idiabo, for instance, someone like Idiabo would definitely appoint military regime, military heads, military ministers or whatever. Or even if you're a military head that can even deal with civilians as ministers or whatever, that's fine. But the most important is let the head have, let this issue of constitution, this constitution about democracy be set aside and do the dictate things for things to come right, to get right. Because it has not taken us anywhere. The only problem we've always had about the Nigerian system, is that we have not been fortunate to get to be led by a good military leader. Barrister, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to add that I talked about the fraudulent democratic system we are operating now in Nigeria. I mentioned elsewhere that a system where a governor can take 500 million of the state's funds and dash somebody.
That's the point.
How much can he take for himself, for his wife, and for his children, or his girlfriends, or his relatives?
That's the point.
That is the kind of democracy we are operating. This week, the National Assembly members bought the latest jeeps.
Yeah.
Which is reputed to be worth about 160 million per one.
You can imagine.
For each member of the House of Reps.
That's the point.
That is outrageous. The Minister of Budget, Atiku Bagudu, came out yesterday to say that the country is broke, that the government is struggling to pay salaries, and there is no money anywhere. Yet, we have money to buy a member of the House of Reps a Jeep, 2023 Jeep worth 160 million. This is nothing short of outrage. And normally the Senate buys something that is bigger because they say they are the Green Chamber, they are upper. So if the House of Reps are buying Jeeps of 160, the Senate is going to be higher. I remember we have 300 and something members of the House of Reps, and we have 109 senators. Now, when you look at all this, the prolificacy, this quandamania that the political class exhibits, you wonder if this democracy is benefiting the average Nigerian.
Wonder?
You begin to doubt that this democracy, we don't need it. That you begin to doubt when you see how the political class operates. In Nigeria today, election into office is almost a passport to wealth, a passport to power and riches. That is not supposed to be. They are supposed to be our representatives. They are supposed to be accountable to us. And we are supposed to remove them in the next election if we don't like what they're doing. But the process of removal itself has been compromised.
That's the point.
The process of the average, the people, the electorate, holding their leaders to account by an electoral system has been compromised. So how can one sincerely refer to this as a democratic system? I have said it repeatedly that we are not operating a democratic governance. We are not operating it. And it's a pity. For me, I will continue to repeat that if we have a proper democracy, it will be better than any military government, any military dictatorship. But one, we are not matured for such a democratic exercise. Two, the environment for such a democratic experiment is not there. And we have started it. Instead of going in the right direction, we have not been going in the right direction. We are going in the negative direction. So there's no hope that even down the line, we can achieve democratic stability that will help the country. But coming back to the military rule, with the position of things in Nigeria now, it is virtually impossible for any military government to take over. Why do I say that? The political atmosphere has been so poisoned to the point that ethnic and religious and geopolitical differences are so paramount, are so insidious in Nigeria today that no matter your intentions, no matter your patriotism as a military officer, if you try to take over power, it is not going to work. The highest you can do, you may throw the whole country into a civil war. That is my take. The atmosphere in Nigeria today will not allow any military officer to try to take power.
Anyway, now, the truth is, democracy can never work in Nigeria because it is alien to us. That's just the truth. It is alien to us if for over 60 years of Nigerian statehood, we have not civilized, we are not exposed or civilized, educated to this, to the extent of doing the right thing. It obviously means that it will never be. Anyone that goes through the school or is in school and for 4 or 5 years, you keep repeating, or even into first you had a carryover the first year. Another day again, you get the same carryover on the same course, whatever. And the third time, the carryover on the same, look, it will be difficult for you to fail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's why you see so many students, they eventually end up switching from one course to the other, because basically they just can't get it right. They couldn't get it right. So that is just the point. Nigeria can never, we are not, it is not in our DNA. We don't have what it takes to have a democracy. That's just the truth. We'll never get there. And on the military aspect, and what you said, let me be frank with you, my barrister. Look, they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let me be frank with you. I agree with you. Sentiment, tribal, religious, ethnic sentiments have eaten so deep in it. Look, the truth is, it's been like it may not have started at this level. But the truth is, from the foundation of Nigeria, in fact, that is the foundation of Nigeria. The foundation of Nigeria was built on sentiments, tribal, ethnic, religious, honestly, or regional, whatever you call it. The foundation, I think we talked about this earlier, not this deep in our past program. The foundation of Nigeria was founded on sentiments, on these 3 sentiments: tribe, religion, what is the third one, sir? Tribe, religion,
geopolitics.
Yeah, regional, yeah. So that is the point. That has been the foundation. So if we keep saying because of this, because of that, and even though at that, Nigeria military rulers, they came on board, and nothing happened. People protested. So people protested. So what? Military remains the military. They will quell whatever. That's why I like them. Look, I've always loved the military. I've always loved their modus operandi. My problem is that we have not been fortunate to get the right people. The right people who tried in the past to come up, they were quelled and probably sent to firing squad. So the thing is, honestly, people are hungry in Nigeria. People are starving. People are suffering. It has come to a point where people will say, to hell with my tribe, to hell with my religion, my faith, to hell with my region. What do we need? Okay, this person is going to be our Messiah. Let's go with him, at least for now. That is what happens in other climes. Okay, this is the enemy of my enemy. That's what they do. Okay, we have 3 enemies. You choose one. Okay, I am your enemy. I don't like you. I don't like you. 3 of us are enemies to each other. All I do is, okay, I go to one of my enemies and say, okay, you and I will have common interest. We both hate this guy. Let us unite. and deal with this guy. So after we are dealt with that guy, we can now figure out how to deal with ourselves as enemies. And that's exactly what will eventually take place in Nigeria, barrister. We have come to this is the most fertile environment for the military to intervene. I am telling you, at this point, if people in the military are called, they will. People, I have an inclination. My instinct tells me that people are doing something on the ground already, and it is going to happen. Nigeria cannot, because Bola Tinubu, look, let me tell you one thing. Bola Tinubu will remain as, unfortunately, it's the worst news to Nigerians for Bola Tinubu to remain as president, because Supreme Court will affirm his presidency. Supreme Court will go ahead, and you think Nigerians are ready to keep up with Bola Tinubu, with all this scandal, with this misrule, corruption, reeking, the entire system reeking of corruption, the entire National Assembly, presidency reeking of corruption. And with all this forgery, this certificate, this national and global embarrassment and disgrace. And not, because let me be frank with you, this Bola credential issue will never go away. We hunt him. Even if he's going to spend 8 years here, which I don't think he will. The military will not let him, I bet you. I'm telling you, Nigeria is at this point where this current situation in Nigeria is the most fertile situation for military to intervene. At this point, like I said, we have gotten to the point where when the military, no matter who the person is, even if Naibo man becomes military, at that point, we'll have skirmishes of protests or whatever. But the truth is, overwhelmingly, there will be overwhelming support. At least at that first instance. The support may wane much later. But at that first instance, with the mood in Nigeria right now, barrister, honestly, I am telling you, coup will succeed. And I bet you, people they are working. I have my inclination, my instinct tells me right now that coup is in the offing. Military coup, military will intervene. I am telling you, and it will not last. I don't expect it to get up to a year for military to intervene, because Bola Tinubu, I foresee him being established by his presidency, being established by the Supreme Court, and people will not find it easy. People will find it so frustrating. People are frustrated already. Some people, a substantial number of people still see a glimpse of hope in the Supreme Court. So they are basically waiting for that Supreme Court. The moment Supreme Court judgment comes, establishing Bola Tinubu's presidency, I am telling you, something will be done. Might not be immediately, but something will be done. We can't continue, but we can't. This guy is not taking us anywhere. He's just taking us down the steep. He's just taking us. He's dipping Nigeria. And besides, what do you expect him? The global body, global establishment will eat him for lunch. We keep eating him for lunch because he has so many debts, so many dirty past, so many things, many skeletons in his cupboard, so many stuff they can use to blackmail him, to drive Nigerian policy. I'm telling you. So there is just no magic. There is no, now he's coming to power. Look, even if Bola Tinubu becomes a saint today, turns a new leaf and repents and decide himself right now, no, I've had a bad past, but okay, I want to get it right. I want to rule the right way. It's practically not going to be possible because his foundation, his presidency, the foundation of his presidency is corrupt.
I was going to say that we have to be very, very cautious. I totally agree with you on the conditions in Nigeria today, that people are being driven to the war. The extreme suffering, the extreme poverty, the lack of hope that is in the country today has never been witnessed before. Nigerians are barely existing. They are barely living because the conditions are so tough. The difficulty is so much. Schools have resumed. Many children have not Many parents have not, their children cannot go back to school. So a point will come in time that there will be an explosion. If things continue at the rate they are going, it will be inevitable that an explosion will occur along the line. My fear is that it will be very risky for any military adventure to come in. It is said that no country survives 2 civil wars. At least we have not seen any country in the world that survives 2 civil wars. The insecurity in the system, in the country today, the levels of guns and small arms, and sometimes serious arms that are available to people in the country today, throughout the country, is something to be worried about. The divisions in the polity between the tribes, between the religions, between ethnic nationalities, and between North and South have never been as profound as they are today. Therefore, any attempt to take power by force will risk creating a civil war in Nigeria and a further risk of disintegrating the country. That risk is very real and credible. In as much as we see that this experiment is not working, I would prefer a situation where we further temper with what we are doing now, because we have learned from it. If we're able to sit together, having acknowledged the problems in the country, having acknowledged our differences along religious and ethnic and geopolitical divisions, if notwithstanding this, we can sit together and fashion a system of governance that will be acceptable throughout Nigeria or by a great majority of Nigerians, maybe we can take up from there. But any attempt for a military government to come in now will risk disintegration of this country.
Yeah, but again, Barrister, honestly, what is wrong in disintegrating? Let me even ask that question. What is wrong? Why are we so concerned about disintegration? What has the unity of the 3 or the 6 geopolitical zones? What has the unity of the 6 geopolitical zones brought to Nigerians? Suffering, poverty, deprivations. So what are we talking about? So look, sometimes, I'll just tell you something. Sometimes God allows something to happen for a greater end. It happened in the case of the Israelites. The Israelites, did they find it well when God wanted to deliver them, to liberate them? What happened? When God wanted to give them a statehood, what happened with the Egypt? What you think it was rosy? It wasn't rosy. When God promised them, God himself, this is the maker of the heavens and the earth, who made all things, who has the power to actually say, okay, I'm going to give you this, and he will give it to you on a platter of gold. But no, God, even while God promised this Israel, promised Israel as that, with Israel that has a very, very unique and personal, very close relationship with God, while he promised them nationhood, he didn't give it to them on a platter of gold. They didn't get it on a platter of gold. They passed through pains, through agonies, complaints, lamentations. In fact, so the ugliest of the ugliest, they passed through it to get that state. And up to today, and they are still fighting for it. This is a country that is of God. These are God's favorite. They are still, up to today, they are still facing a strong opposition, a strong opposition today, as strong as the opposition when God promised them this nationhood. So nothing comes easy. Sorry. No, hold on, please. Yeah, hold on, please. Nothing comes easy. That's the point. They say no pain, no gain. Yes, if it happens and there is a war, there are some painful wars. That's how wars you really have to fight. The Bible says there's a time and season for everything, a time to fight and a time to keep quiet. A time to fight war, a time for peace. There is time for everything. Nigeria, we've been preaching peace for all these years. What have we achieved through this peace? In my own estimation, this is the time for us to do the needful. For us to do the needful. The needful is, let's take the bull by the horn. Yes, people will go for it. It has happened. It's been like that. It will always happen. Some people will sacrifice for that, and that is just it. Whoever is sacrificing, including even myself, even if I am involved, I don't care. But the problem is, for good to come, you must have to pass through the process. The process can be so extremely excruciating. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, what happens? The Bible says, after being tested, that's the book of Job. After being tested and tried, I shall come out as gold. That's Job saying that. You can imagine gold passing through that kind of that level of heat and fire. But eventually it comes out so beautiful. That's just the point. Please go ahead.
Yes, you asked the question, why not? When we talk about
division,
disintegration.
Yes.
Now, my issue is, if it were knowing what I know about Nigeria today, seeing what I've seen in decades of living in Nigeria, of traveling around the country, I would prefer, if it's possible, to reach accommodation for us to remain together. That would be my preference. My second preference would be, if the first one will not work, if it were possible to divide peacefully, then it is still okay. But knowing what I know and seeing what I see, it is not possible for a peaceful disintegration of Nigeria.
Absolutely not.
It's not even possible for one war. There will be constant,
multiple,
almost permanent warfare between various sections of the country. And don't forget, the international, a lot of countries on the international scene are just waiting in the wings to come in with their interest should anything like that happen. And they can sustain the wars, sustain the enmity for as long as it suits their interest. We would have lost the plot. We would not, even though now we still do not fully control our affairs. It will get worse if we open up and there are wars. All these Western countries that you talk about, and even now, Eastern countries too, they are going to come in here to carve out spaces for themselves as their interests dictate. And at the end of the day, the average person may be worse off, even though we would think by disintegrating, by going our way, everybody going his way, we may think it will be better. But it might end up in the opposite direction. It might end up in a worse scenario.
But
let's have that at the back of our minds.
Yeah, but let me tell you, let me give you my opinion about this thing again. Honestly, don't be surprised that if peradventure something like this erupts, yes, so many, the poor, the less privileged, the common man will be the one to bear the brunt. But let me be frank with you. The main target will be the powers that be. I'm telling you, if anything happens again, or if anything happens in the area of either violence or revolution or whatever you call it, the target will be on our politicians, the people who ruled and who are ruling this country right now. they will be the target, at least the first target. And by the virtue of that, let me tell you one thing, usually when a revolution takes place and the target is the powers that be, mostly the powers that the leaders of that particular nation, I am telling you that revolution eventually ends up making that country a better country. Because at that point, people have learned. The problem we have in Nigeria is the leadership. The people, that's the problem. The moment our leaders begin to feel threatened by the populace, the moment they begin to feel that sense of threat to their lives and the lives of their family, they will sit up. They'll sit up. So if a revolution comes up today and the target is the powers that be, the politicians, our leaders, I am telling you, the ones that are left or that will be left alive, they will sit up. Because at that point, they will not realize that it is no longer business as usual, that people have really woken up. And as such, they will do the right thing. So let me tell you, the truth is, I still believe in that revolution, whatever you call it. I think I wrote an article so many years ago about the solution to Nigeria's problem is a violent revolution. And I still have that, whatever. So if military intervention will lead to that, why not? And if it is not military and it is an organic eruption of the system, that people will just go on the streets and start trying to take their destiny into their hands and whatever, why not? The revolution. But the only problem, let me be frank with you, Nigeria will never. If Jesus Christ tarries, Nigeria will never get it. Look, we've been getting it will be difficult for us to just see ourselves just overnight, just turning a new leaf. Our leader turning a new leaf. From the foundation, it's been from bad to worst. And right now, like I said earlier, we are in the worst. We've never been better. From when we laid the foundation was faulty. Obviously, like the Bible says, when the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? The foundation is faulty. And that is why I don't mind if you whatever you call it, disintegration or whatever. Must we actually, look, must we live together? Must the marriage continue? I keep telling people, no marriage not by force. Not be by force. The marriage was faulty. There was a foundation. Though I don't usually use it, try to match it with the real marriage between man and woman. I have a different opinion about that. But concerning Nigeria, the marriage don't be by force. So why must we live together? It's not working. It has not worked. It's been one-sided. The North has perpetuated themselves in authority, and they are not letting loose of the leadership. So what is wrong there? So anyway, Barrister, if you have, I said you have something to say, I will be rounding up. Let me give you another. But the truth is, honestly, Barrister, I understand what all you have said. You are right. There's no doubt about it. You are right. And at the same time, I think I am right as well. But my own passion and desire is for a better Nigeria. And we cannot get it better. I'm telling you, except pains are inflicted, organic pains. People are able to withstand pains, are able to tolerate pains, are able to sacrifice themselves so that the people coming behind will survive, will live. That is, except so, Nigeria will never get better.
Let me add that it is possible for us to live together with a measure of devolution of powers. But the problem is that it's not just the leadership that is the problem in Nigeria today. The average Nigerian is equally dishonest. So even if you were to remove the present leaders and bring another set of leaders, even from the street. You are not guaranteed to get better results. The whole psychosis has become so permissive, so prevalent. It has eaten up the whole body of Nigeria. From the messenger to the director of PAMSEC, everybody appears to be individualistic. They only think of what is good for them. Nobody is thinking about the entity called Nigeria. But if we try a greater devolution of powers to ethnic nationalities to govern themselves, give them a good measure of control over a lot of things, perhaps it will spur some measure of competition among them and development at their spaces, at their rates, rather than the problem we have now. The center today is too strong. At the same time, if we weaken the center, we'll still come back to the issue of disintegration. So it's a catch-44 situation.
Now, look, this devolution of power has been in existence. This talk about devolution of power has been existent from the foundation of our great nation, Nigeria. We've been advocating it. We've been talking about it. People that matters in the society have been talking about it. People have died as a result of this, especially from the Afenifere and the Nadeko time of during Babacha time. People have died. People have gone on exile as a result of this devolution of power, just to push this policy to keep us together. Barrister, it's not going to work. It won't work. Do you know why it's not work? That devolution of power would have been a good solution to the problem, to our nagging problem. But the problem is the powers, the people holding tight in their clutches. The government, the Nigerian system, the Nigerian nation, they won't allow that. The powers that be, we have just very few people, probably maybe just less than 1% of our population are the ones holding Nigeria hostage. They are holding us hostage, and they will never let it. What you just said, and what so many people have been advocating for several decades now, are a policy that is inimical, detrimental to their interests. They will not let it be. They will never. And that is why the issue of we have been pushed to the wall. What haven't we tried? We tried what you have just said, devolution of powers. We've tried so many things. People have spoken. People have gone on the street. The influential figures in the society, some of them have died as a result of trying to sell all these ideas to the government. The powers that be will not let it be. And so that is just it. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this program. Again, what you have said is understandable. Your idea, your understanding, your opinion is very, very understandable. And in my own too, I think I think I have people who are thinking in line with me, because people are frustrated. People are frustrated. I'm telling you, people are frustrated. People are hungry. Things are happening in Nigeria, Barrister. I am telling you, I may not be in that level, but I can feel the pain of people every day. I can empathize with their situation. I feel it, honestly, because
well, let me add that you can only try to feel and understand, but we that are here, we know that whatever you say will be an understatement, because the situation is really, really bad. The middle class has been virtually wiped out.
That is the point.
We, like myself, I'm supposed to be even an upper middle class.
Yes.
By my normal, by my age, by my education, by my work, I'm supposed to be the upper middle class. But we have all been brought down to the proletariat, to the ordinary person. You remember when in Tanzania, Julius Nyerere brought the Uhuru, the declaration in
Yes.
Arusha, what they call the Arusha Declaration.
Yes.
He brought the socialist program and said they want to equalize riches. The program ended up equalizing poverty, taking everybody down. Even the few people that were rich were brought down.
Oh my God.
So, there are only two classes now: the poor people and the rich.
And the rich. That's the point. Honestly,
there's no middle class, and it is the middle class that is the engine and drives a country, that provides the stop gaps, the valves that prevent a country from going haywire. They have ruined the middle class. So everybody is for himself in Nigeria today.
So sad. Anyway, thank God we are still alive. We pray God intervene in Nigeria. We need God's intervention. Honestly, we're talking about military intervention, we're talking about revolution. Honestly, the real stuff, the real thing, the real intervention we crave, yearn, and hunger, thirst for is God's intervention. Whichever way God wants to intervene, it is his making, it is his creation. He created Nigeria. He created everything, everyone in Nigeria. So we seek his intervention. We pray for his intervention. So whichever way God wills to intervene, let his will be done. That is just it. We can wish and proffer solution. Those wishes and proffered solutions might not be God's will. Overall, let God do what makes him God. Nigeria needs God's intervention. We are, like I said, people are suffering. I understand when you say that I can only understand, but I can't really fathom how people feel, whatever. But the truth is, I think to an extent, I may not just understand. I think I feel because it affects me. It may not be directly, but indirectly, it still comes back to me in one way or the other. I still feel the pain. I feel the pain. So technically, I feel the pain. So that is just it. We pray for God's intervention in his own way. Let him intervene. God can intervene in any way. We've gone through the scriptures. Biblically, God has intervened in situations in different ways. So let's just pray for his will to be done, because Nigeria needs God's intervention. Barrister, thank you so very much as always. Thank you for your brilliant and intelligent, insightful opinion and analysis and commentary. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. Once again, viewers, this is we've been having this discussion, this very, very important discussion with our dear Barrister A.A. Manta. Barrister A.A. Manta is a legal practitioner with a vast experience in law. And he is the principal partner of A.A. Manta and Co., whose office is situated in Kaduna and Abuja as well. So thank you once again, Barrister. Viewers, we give you thanks and appreciate your audience. And I urge you to keep in tune with us. If you love what you just heard, what you just watched, keep watching, because like I said, this is a program, a platform that says it the way it is. We don't hold back. We don't care whose ox is God. We just say it the way it is. We can be as raw can be. And so that is also subscribe to our channel and keep in touch. We will keep feeding you with the right content, the right message. And that is just it. our goal is actually to meet an expected end for everyone, for the Nigeria and the society to be a decent and responsible one. Thank you so very much. Once again, this is Oweleketv. My name is JIBRIN, and this show is called JIBRIN Angle. God bless you, and stay in touch.
Democracy is said to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But I mean, are we really practicing democracy? Are you also of the opinion that only a military government can rule Nigeria well? Can corruption be permanently terminated in this country of ours? Can Nigeria and Nigerians really face reality? You can send us your opinion in our comment section below. I am Rachel Abioye, and this is Oweleketv.